Hey everybody, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about the new Denzel Washington, Chris Pine flick, Unstoppable. Also going to talk about Skyline, the new FX alien invasion flick, and Danny Boyle's 127 Hours. And John, I'd love to talk about Four Lions, but I couldn't get all the way through the screener.
That's okay. I didn't think you would. I don't think it's going to be around any longer. It's more for you to watch for your pleasure than anything else. I don't think it's... I'm pretty sure it's leaving Kendall this week.
Oh, bummer. You know, I really did enjoy what I saw, but the problem was that the disc kept skipping.
Really?
So it was freezing up in me. Yeah, and we, my girlfriend Sarah and I and some guests, we tried watching Tibetan Song last night, and that also got about like 45 minutes in, and then the CDR or DVD-R, whatever, didn't play. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe I need another player, but
maybe I think the Blu-ray in my computer's got the same. It's just developed an attitude. It won't play the crap I want to watch, but you know the stuff I have. You know, the artsy fartsy stuff. It plays perfectly.
Yeah. You know, that's how the universe works sometimes.
That's true.
Unstoppable.
So, is that what you want? You want to start with Unstoppable?
Yeah, you know, either way. Do you have a preference? Unstoppable.
Nope.
Skyline?
Unstoppable's fine.
Unstoppable. A good movie to see if you're not strapped for if you are strapped for time. I'm sorry. If you're strapped for time, it's a great movie to see because it comes in at what, like 80 minutes or something like.
A rollicking 80 minutes.
Something like.
But you know, it's you know, it'd be easy to sit here, I think, and badmouth it, but I think it was just dumb fun.
It was. You know, it was dumb fun. It was a machine of a movie. I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
and you think Tony Scott, you know, the thing is, it's Tony Scott directing and Denzel Washington's the star, and they usually have such complicated and over-the-top projects. This seems like something like, you know, between movies, hey, I found a camera, let's make a runaway train movie. But
haven't they done like 5 movies together now?
Maybe, something
Pelham,
like that.
Taking of Pelham, 1, 2, 3, Man on Fire. I'm just looking at his...
All pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember much about Man on Fire. Taking of Pelham I only remember because I like the original so much more.
Yeah.
This one, it's pretty much a dispensable piece of entertainment, but again, entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
And to let, you know, in case people haven't figured this out, it's funny because when I was talking to the rep, I called it a runaway train movie, and she's like, "It's not a runaway train movie." Mm-hmm. It is. That's what it is. Through some oafish, stupid, you know, a guy forgets to put the throttle in the right gear or whatever. Uh-huh. When he gets out to change a track signal, a train gets away, an unmanned train that, we forgot to connect the air brakes too, so it's going 80 miles an hour down the track towards a bend.
Ethan Suplee was, I liked him in this part. You know.
Well, you know, the guy is typecast. You know, that's pretty much it's like the guy from My Name Is Earl got, you know, a job on the train and screwed that up too. But for all these unbelievable reasons, this train is going 80 miles an hour down the track, headed towards the only populated area that just happens to have a giant turn that the train will never make. Oh, and yeah, it's filled with toxic chemicals.
Right, and the turn is smattered with all these like gas tanks, like these huge, giant tanks. You know, that we're going to create this mini nuclear explosion should anything.
Full of toxic chemicals and nuclear waste, and you know, I'm sure they're going to put some children right in front of the tanks right before it goes, just to make us, you know, it's not enough they put horses in danger in this ridiculous, you know, look, the horse trailer got stuck on the track, and here comes the train. Will the horses make it?
John,
it was just, John, I was just laughing. Yeah,
I'm sorry. No, that's actually a good point. That's actually a good point. Yeah, it's like that. You're going to be proud of me. I have a phone call coming through, and I've turned my ringer off. So
you're a good man. You're a good man. Just ignore it.
A little forethought creates a little more smoother show. You know.
Isn't the big red light on above the door on air?
Yeah.
So people won't come in and bother you.
Yeah. You know, man, I really I enjoyed this movie. The soundtrack was I thought particularly good. It added a lot to it. Harry Gregson Williams, who I dig his stuff. He it's it's a pretty good soundtrack. You know, it's got like this electric guitar thing going on, and you know, it's all fast and quick. You know what? The other thing I guess I could say is probably very, you know, like you could interchange this with many other soundtracks, but still, you know, I digged it.
Did it have a lot of pop tunes? Did it have a lot of AC/DC and you know, other generic metal?
Yeah.
I think AC/DC's been in like every movie I've seen this week, so it's hard for me to remember where, you know, AC/DC played in this one. I know it was in Megamind.
They're making a lot of money off that stuff.
You know, good for them. Good for them. Yeah. But yeah, you know, and you know, the acting in this movie, I admit I have a soft spot for Rosario Dawson, and she makes a fine. What is she, like a railroad?
Yeah, she's like Denzel's character in the Pelham remake. She like holds down the fort. You know, she's the lady who does all the arranging of where the trains go. You know, she's in sort of like Train Central. You know, like the train control tower. And she brings some humor to it, which is kind of neat. You know, they realize, you know, they haven't got the greatest jobs in the world, so I found it somewhat amusing that they all kind of sort of considered themselves like, we're not in our favorite jobs, we're doing this for the money. You know, this isn't like you know, my character went through all this, you know, I was born and bred to be this through the entirety of their lives. The
and there's a nice
of their
tension.
being, you know, it's not.
And there's a nice tension between Denzel Washington and Chris Pine, you know, where he's the established union guy who just got his notice that he's going to be laid off in 90 days, and Chris Pine plays the young, well-connected, you know, guy who gets the union job because he's got connections, not because he's any good at it. So they have some nice give and take as they, you know, drive down the track. But, you know, it's just, you know, the conversation's just they're killing time until they get to the next, you know, exciting train scene.
Chris Pine kind of reminds me of Chris Klein. Remember from Election, Rollerball?
Yeah, I hope it does. His career doesn't go that way.
I think so. I thought to myself, there's a step up in quality here.
Yeah, and Chris Pine has a franchise behind him. You know, he's Captain Kirk. He always will be. Yeah.
And I loved the effects in this film with the train. And I had heard some other critics say that Tony Scott repeated some of these shots. And I think some people, I mean, I've had a problem with Tony Scott's editing.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, man. It's like a commercial. It's like you're editing away, you know, you cutting from shots on these, like, perfect expressions from people. You know, it's like... It's Michael Bay editing in a way, and it's kind of annoying. It's the one thing that kind of I have a problem with about True Romance is the editing of the film. It's like just leaves me with this strange feeling, you know. I mean, I know that they're overlapping dialogue and, you know, all this other, you know, and overlapping shots, you know. It's like, but if you ever get the feeling that editing is screwy, then that's a problem. And there are some moments in this film, and it's like,
where it didn't work for me is that sometimes they cut to the train, and you know that you've been told by the dialogue and from the shot before it that the train's going really fast, and they cut to the scene where it just looks like the train's going slow. I don't know if it's because you can't capture motion like that well on film, or
it does seem like,
you know, like they need some perspective. They need like someone standing by the side of the track to watch it go zooming by, because otherwise it's like, well, did the train slow down? No, it's still 80 miles an hour heading right for the children.
There is that scene, I guess maybe 20 minutes into the film, where the train is you know, they've got to try and change tracks before this other train, you know, basically has something of a head-on collision with these children that don't know that the train's coming. And that's when the speed is established, when it's like zooming by the window. But some of the scenes where it's approaching these stop gates, these you know, crossing gates, not going too fast, you know.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Again, it's like there's a little continuity mix up in your head while you're watching it, where there's just too many shots. You're like, wow, what happened? Did it slow down? No, it's still going fast. You just can't, I guess, capture that effectively.
Yeah, and you know what I would also tell people is not to get your hopes up for this movie, because it's not something that has this like colossally awesome payoff. You know, it's very average. It's fun and very average.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, and I liked it. For that reason, I guess I didn't. I think because of it's average, but when you consider what the subject is, this runaway train is just they make a lot out of that one bit of business. They've got this runaway train. They do make a lot out of it. I just think it's slumming for guys like Denzel Washington and Tony Scott.
Yeah, it's a paycheck.
To be doing something like this.
No doubt.
Good for him,
Denzel's done so many of these movies where he's on the phone or on the walkie-talkie, and this is just another one of them. Lots of walkie-talkie communication. Yeah. I do the scenes between Chris Pine and Denzel Washington in the on the train,
in the cab.
Really good. It's pretty funny. I think it's actually well written. It's not a bad movie. It's well made, but just not. I can't say it's great.
Oh, it's so forgettable.
It's completely
the next in a year you won't remember this movie. Yeah. When it comes out on DVD, you'll be like, "Oh yeah,
we didn't know about it a couple days beforehand. We did, even knowing that this thing was coming out. I'm exaggerating, but then it's like you'll forget about it maybe the day later. I don't know.
Yeah, until something better comes along, and it won't have to be much better to distract.
I got to thinking, in this train action movie genre, there's actually very few movies. I was thinking of that Gene Wilder flick or something. Didn't he do something like Super Train or?
I don't know. I know there's Runaway Train with Eric Roberts and John Voight.
Terror Train.
Train.
Curtis.
Yeah, there's the Train with Burt Lancaster. So there are other and better train movies out there if that's your thing. There's Train Spotting, which has nothing to do with
talking
trains.
About that.
But it's Should we segue right into Danny Boyle?
Right.
127 hours.
Man, okay, so this relates to the cookie that I was eating before we started the podcast. I'm at Trader Joe's last night picking some stuff up for this mini party that we were having at my place last night because we had all this work done on the apartment and had some people over. Anyway, long story short, I'm buying the cookies, and this girl next to me is trying to describe 27 hours to this other guy, and she says, well, I don't quite know what to say, but it's kind of a cross between Into the Wild and Saw.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess she kept her eyes open.
Yeah,
the
for maybe
scene.
The 1 minute of the scene. It was actually... It's just this one scene that's to me, it was more revolting than the entirety of Saw. Because we know this character so well that...
yeah.
It's an emotional experience.
Well, I think the thing about this movie is that if you know anything about it, if you've heard the story, you know what's going to happen. It's about a hiker in the desert who falls down a ravine, gets his hand caught between a boulder and a rock wall, and it's based on a true story, and he has to find a way to get away, to escape, to free himself. And because it's a true story, and because we know what's coming, that he's going to, I'm not spoiling it for people, he's going to cut his own arm off. You spend at least I did, I spent every minute of this movie, once he got trapped, waiting to close my eyes, because I knew he was going to cut his own arm off.
That was a queasy scene. But, the mechanics of this movie are actually kind of rough, because what Danny Boyle has to do here is tell this story in minutia. There's just all the drama that's happening is happening in this very small, confined environment. Not so small as as Buried is, but he's able to tell this story through dreams, through remembrances, through hallucinations, and even when he can take a very small thing and turn it into sort of this action thing, just the process of turning the video camera on. The camera zooms into the camera, and you see the tape wrap around the heads of the camera, and the mechanics of it. It's like you're an ant compared to this huge environment of the cave. So it's actually this giant, movie, because you're pulled down to this minuscule level.
And he does it. It's funny you mentioned because he does it with ants too.
Absolutely.
There are scenes where ants
literally
bite. They're biting at James Franco's face, and you can actually see it's close enough for you to see the ant tugging at the skin. It's extreme close up, and it's but it's weird because at least for me that was both fascinating and almost repellent. I was so sick of James Franco.
Like destruction of this guy's ego, about how he's such a loner, he can take care of everything all by himself. He doesn't need help from anybody. In fact, he went so far as to do this, is that his big mistake was he didn't tell anybody where and when he was where he was going to be and when he's coming back. So nobody had any. He was such a loner, no one had an expectation for him. They weren't expecting him anywhere except for these girls who met him early on, and maybe not they'd remember that they had a plan to go see a party tomorrow night with a giant inflatable Scooby-Doo.
Right.
Which becomes this
That's part of the
it's a running
part.
image in the film. I forget my film school. I'm forgetting that at the moment, but there's a running image of a Scooby-Doo. It's like the mythical character of this film is that doll, that thing, that whatever.
The mythical character.
It's how you in film school. I recall a class where it was about myths in film. And one of the examples they use is, like, for example, Easy Rider, when they're on their way down to New Orleans, and our instructor asked us to pick out images from the film that offered these sort of mythical qualities to it. And so I wasn't catching it at the time, and and the instructor would go back over the film, and they'd pass Paul Bunyan on the way, and then so Paul Bunyan is supposed to subliminally give the viewer this idea that they're riding on the American myth. So Scooby-Doo appears in this film, and we relate to it, and it's this image that's carried. We ride with it. So okay, that's a film school thing. Whatever. I totally wasn't down with it.
That was a film school moment.
You're reading too much into this. You read but years later, I kind of thought, well, okay, these film is images, and images have power, and Scooby-Doo is an image of this film, and I guess there's an essence to it. It was something for him to cling to, I suppose. Anyway.
So were the girls.
Oh, and the girls, yes.
I think the girls were more, I guess I could see the girls as more of something to cling to than an inflatable Scooby-Doo he imagined at some party he never
they
attended.
basically present to him his idea of what that image of Scooby-Doo is. And I think we should say that, so he's I guess he's in Utah, and he's going on this 25-mile biking trek deep into these caverns that will eventually lead to this drop-off in one of the caverns. So he goes into this sort of cave. The cave that he's going to explore leads to a drop-off, and it's not a totally covered cave. It's more like a wedge. It's completely open to the elements
like
from
a
above.
Crack in the earth.
So he can see as he's stuck in there, for some days. The lights passing and time passing and whatnot. But he meets these girls, these hikers who are lost early on, and they immediately hit it off. They kind of give him this it kind of supports his character in the terms that, like, he's a guy that helps other people, but in the end we've got a situation where he desperately needs help from someone else, and things just kind of turn in on themselves, unfortunately, and it's not a bad film.
Let me ask you this. No, I didn't think it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but I think it's just I think I would never go see it again. In fact, that's what I wanted to ask you. So how was the scene where he cuts off his own? Because I didn't watch.
Well, okay, you remember
I didn't.
Sarah was sitting to my right, and
yes,
what was that noise that she would make every now and then?
That wasn't just her. That was all around us. As soon as there's one scene where he stabs himself in the arm, or he's trying to cut his arm off early on, but his knife is too dull. And as soon as and that's why I think the tension works, because they know it's coming. As soon as he takes that knife out, or he stabs himself in the arm with it, there's that hiss of, that intake of breath that people are like, it's like that, they're at the top of that roller coaster. They've been dragged up to the top, and now they're going over the edge, and they're about to scream because
and there's moments that lead up
mind.
to it, because he tries to figure out, like, he has very few things. He's got, a canister of water, a bad, cheap army knife, and he laments the fact that he didn't go for the more expensive Swiss army knife. Of course, the battery power on his camera is dying, but that's not so much a life-supporting thing as maybe the knife and the water. So he tries to, as he's trying to chip his way out of the rock, he considers using the knife to sever his skin and realizes it isn't strong enough. And then in the process, he drops the knife. And we should also say that he's stuck in this with his right arm, and this boulder, has his hand crushed to the wall. But he's also suspended maybe a foot above the dirt floor. So if he dropped anything, and he did, he can't reach it.
I thought he was standing on the floor.
Suspended above the floor. Remember when he drops the knife?
I thought he just dropped it out of reach so he couldn't bend down and get it, but I didn't know he was suspended in the air all that time. He's kind of like
wedged up against the wall. But so these little things, just the dropping of the knife and not being able to get it, really rough. But anyway, he figures that he can use a rock to sharpen the knife to be able to, sever his arm.
Do what he has to do.
Should it come to that? But the movie also tricks you, because it goes off on these tangents that are hallucinatory, hallucinations.
I thought those are the weakest points in the movie. When he thinks he's in a game show, or he's imagining people sitting on a couch or stuff. I just thought those were fillers, because you've only got a story here that could be told in an hour, and we're going to pad it out to an hour and a half, an hour 45. I imagine in the book, the guy had these hallucinations and stuff, and they helped time pass, or that's what kept him going, or whatever those kind of things do. But when I was watching it, I was like, this is just filler. I'm waiting for this guy to.
I kept thinking the
do what he
creatures from The Descent were gonna, walk out.
That would have
been
fine.
Corner. There was one moment where you're like, what the hell is around the corner? It was something there, a wolf, something. So there was a little bit of that. Again, it's a short film. It's just a terrifically well-made film. There's a lot of skill here from Danny Boyle.
Oh yeah, it just wasn't my. I'll admit to a prejudice from the very start. Why do people do shit like this? Ride a bike for 25 miles in the desert and go hiking in rocks. I don't understand that at all. So all the time, this guy has no sympathy for me for anything that's happening to him. I'm not one of those back to nature people. So when he was out all the time, I'm in the back of my head, I'm going, well,
Yeah, well, he was very self-supporting guy. He didn't need help from anyone else. And
yeah. If we were attacked by aliens like the people in Skyline, he would survive.
And this
I would
is
be
all
alien
about
food.
James Franco. I mean, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. If you don't like looking at this guy, if you don't like his presence, he's in every frame of the movie. So this is, down to the minutia. I mean, you can see his zits in some of the scenes. It's that was the most concerning part for me. What's that? Oh, and by the way, if you're thinking about biking in Utah in this canyon, there's a disclaimer at the end of the credits that says the canyon is not completely open to all biking, and it's not allowed. So I'm guessing that they filmed in areas that they shouldn't have been filming while he was biking. So.
Well, I think that's kind of like the thing they put at the end of 101 Dalmatians. Dalmatians aren't all as cute. There's some responsibilities. So don't go adopting them. They don't want the legal department probably tacked that on so they don't have people going, oh, I can do that. Or, they'll have some kind of an echo tour. Come see the spot where his arm's still hanging against the wall.
Inspired us to jump on your bike and go biking where this guy did, because you'll get a ticket. So,
at least.
Moving on.
At least.
Skyline.
Now this is a record. Wait, this is a record for us. I want to establish it before we talk about Skyline. We both enjoyed two movies. We agreed. We agreed on something. That's kind of special because we're about to enter our normal zone.
I'm a little afraid as to where
this
one might go because I have read.
Lead the chase.
deplorable things about Skyline, and I disagree. I really enjoyed this movie. I did.
Really, Steve?
I did. This is a low budget film that a couple of guys who were very adept. You know, they have their own special effects company. They're very adept at doing incredible special effects, and they made this movie in and around their apartment building. And I was amazed by the effects. I freaking loved it. I mean, I love the idea of like these, couple of people trying to survive against an alien invasion. And I know you've got like Independence Day and Cloverfield, but I just find that really cool because it's just this survival mode. It's like a Terminator sort of situation where like, this it's live or die constantly. I mean, the Terminator is just like stripped down drama. I'm going to kill you no matter what, or I'm going to chase you down no matter what. And so this is this overwhelming alien invasion force that's going to win no matter what. So you just have to, if you have it in you, you keep on running and you see who survives. And that's the game in this movie. And it plays out in this apartment building and, inside in the basement, in the parking lot. The parking lot scenes I thought were pretty damn cool. On the roof, I thought it was cool. But, boy, man, there are some real haters of this film out there, like this complete freaking trash.
I think it's the kind of movie where I didn't like it. I thought it was really bad, but it's also be so easy to take shots at. I thought the acting was terrible. I don't know what the story was about.
Acting at all, but the purpose of this movie, the reason it was made, is because these guys could do it. Of course they had to get no-name actors, and there's some cheeseball stuff going on there, but the movie was made, and it's freaking cool.
Yeah, it didn't wow me with the cool factor, and I thought the effects, the spaceships and stuff, were kind of generic. And I do not understand why creatures from another planet look like giant.
Oh yeah, that was disconcerting. Well, I have a theory about that. This is written by
Do you?
Some guys who may not have been Casanovas.
Stop. Can we first title this Steve's Theory on Why Aliens Look like Giant Vaginas? Go.
Because this film may have been written by some guys who have not been historically,
near a vagina in their life.
and that fear of women has played itself into the design of the aliens.
I just picture this being studied by
feminists. Oh, absolutely.
That's
what's so disconcerting about it in a way. I mean, in a way, that's why it's kind of like so fucked up. It's like there's a couple of characters that meet their end in this movie, and so holy
inside the giant see alien vaginas.
What are they? Yeah, man, this is teeth in a whole different way, man. It's vagina dentitis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what happened.
Written by Joshua Cordes and Lam O'Donnell. So perhaps...
yeah.
But maybe they're not responsible for the design of the aliens. Maybe it was the special effects team that
I would blame the Strauss brothers.
Or maybe... Was it written as giant vaginas with tentacles? Holy Jesus.
Yeah. It's kind of... It's something... There's something going on. And, the fact is, that if I'm laughing at that... The movie's not taking. Man, I'm not even thinking how cool the ships are. I'm like, look at that thing.
I don't like the idea. I didn't like the fact that the movie begins with, basically a flashback. You go back, you see this devastating thing happening, and then you go back 18 hours earlier, and it's Eric Balfour's character Jared arriving at the apartment of his film producer friend. I guess he's just got everything anybody could. Donald Faison, he's super rich, basically, and he's got this penthouse apartment, and so he's having this get together for his friends that have arrived. Well, a couple of his friends that have arrived in L.A. One of Eric Balfour, he plays Jared. His girlfriend is pregnant, and that comes about in the first maybe 20 minutes of the film, that she has to reveal to him that she's pregnant. So what happens is they wake up in the morning and there's these incredible freaking bright lights that have emanated from these, I don't know, like these streams of blue dust or something have fallen into the city. And if you take a look at these lights, it completely engulfs a person's brain. Every part of their body wants to be drawn to this light, and then they're just like basically sucked up into the air, like not evaporated, but just like lifted off. And yeah. So basically, we come to learn that the aliens use humans as batteries. They just suck them up, throw them away, insert the next human head, and we see this process when they're trying to escape in the basement. The aliens, they come in bigger, huge starship forms, and then they're like more like these I don't know, like these mini Godzillas. They're like 10th size Godzilla creatures that like pulverize everything. Yeah, smaller vaginas. So there's larger and smaller versions of these aliens, and then they have these smaller craft things that go into the buildings and seek people out. And there's this cat and mouse thing happening with the aliens in the basement. And during this action scene, you see the actual process where they capture this guy, rip his head off, pull out the other head or whatever brainstem from this inside of this alien, and insert the new head to basically just power up the alien, and you get to see the whole disgusting process of using humans as batteries.
Do you think the film could have benefited from perhaps one line of dialogue explaining any of this?
Really, no, because the whole point of it is that you're not supposed to know what you're seeing it from their point of view, like Cloverfield. You're seeing what's happening not from the military's point of view, not from the interior of any of the crafts, like the army or anything. Just from them.
But just these four people trapped in a.
All you would be able to see is what's going on around you, and so we see this. So no, there's no scientific explanation. We just see what they see.
So what do you think of the end of this thing?
I thought it actually knocked it up a notch. I did. I was impressed with the ending because I didn't know how. It's such an overwhelming force. They're going to lose. I did not expect. I thought that, it's to me. I thought it was a fun film, and the ending kind of knocked it up a notch. I was like, wow, that took you to a different place. So that was cool. And I like Repo Man, like the movie Repo Man that we reviewed earlier this year. I think that. This movie has a future in terms of this could be the future of independent filmmaking, an example of it, what with these effects and all. But also, people may look back on this and say, "Wow, that was pretty twisted." Years from now, it can be a discovery. So don't be one of those people that didn't see it in the theater.
Well, I just stared at it. It did nothing for me either way, besides making me laugh at the giant.
Didn't you like it when the Ferrari got smashed, man?
No, I'd seen that on TV.
So cool. Or when they tried to rescue him with the helicopter off the roof, and
no.
The alien has some designs that kind of made the scene kind of reminded me of a scene from The Thing. It's the aliens are grotesque and they have these tentacles that come out and
again,
stab through things.
But that's just it. We've seen that kind of. I didn't think there was anything really original about the aliens. They all have tentacle things. And
well, true, John. But the movie exists as a total mix of all these other things. I mean, The Matrix, Independence Day, Cloverfield.
Mix or rip off?
Even in the sense, even Close Encounters. Well, nothing is truly original. Everything is bits of this, bits of that, mashed together.
But there has to. I think without good acting, without a story I could follow or care about, I was looking at trailers of cool special effects, and it meant nothing to me. And by the end, I was like, "What the fuck?" Does this mean I'm going to have to sit through Skyline 2?
Well, that would go in a very different direction, considering what happened. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm glad the movie was made. I really am.
I'm glad you enjoyed it too. I'm glad you're fighting the tide. Like I said, it would be real easy to just be a critic and take pot shots at it. I just don't understand why some of these internet critics, like the review at not even critics, not even internet.
They're just dumping on it. Shouldn't they be championing these independent filmmakers that they did this?
No.
I mean,
No.
It seems kind of arrogant.
Well, that's a critic's job, is to be arrogant. That's what critics are, spoiled and arrogant. You know that.
Well, as a guy who spent a lot of time making films, It's like, do they have really any idea how hard it is to do something like this, and how far technology has come? Like, this couldn't have been done, 20 years ago by a couple of guys in their apartment, and now it can be. And this is sort of an example of the future, and they did it, and they've been punished by the critics for doing so.
I'm only punishing because I didn't like the final product. I think anyone who gets a movie done deserves the same. If someone writes a book, I don't have to like the book.
For about $1 million,
you got it published.
I think.
What?
It cost about $1 million.
To this movie? Yeah. It's all up there on the screen too, huh? Does that count? Does that count the therapy bills to those boys working out their issues with the lady parts?
I guess, John, you'll be proud of me. I've got another phone call coming in and no ring.
See?
So I'm gonna have like people pissed at me for not answering the phone. But I mean, come on,
Hey, they'll call back if it's important. They'll call back.
True.
Skyline made $11.7 million so far, so they've made their money back. We will see a Skyline 2. Or
the type of filmmaking process that went into making it will be used for effects on other films. I think these guys are doing the effects for Battle Los Angeles, I believe.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
I'm guessing
I can imagine from the title
what
it is.
Invasion flick. I think the trailer just came out this week. Battle Los Angeles, John. You don't know what? Okay, all right. I'm not going to go there.
No,
I'm not going to go there.
It's off my radar screen. Trust me.
Our listeners expect you to know what Battle Los Angeles is, John. You've got to know.
No, your listeners expect that.
Oh, okay.
Mine don't. Right. Trust me.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. You have a different readership. I come from more of an online geek background.
I'll be breaking the news.
And John is
when they have Showgirls 2. I'll be breaking the news. You know that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it could be happening here with Burlesque.
No. Although I have this isn't my DVD recommendation, but I just got the a Cher box set that has a movie she did with Sonny. There's a Sonny and Cher movie, the only movie they appeared in together, and then there's something called Chastity, which is like a 70s woman out on hitchhiking around the world or America to find herself.
Because Chastity was named after her daughter was named.
After seeing the movie this morning, I hope not. But then it's also got like Silkwood and the one she did with Nicolas Cage, Moon.
Hey, you just reminded me.
Anyway,
I
did.
What? So last Monday they had a presentation here in Boston over at the MFA for Fantasia. I think it conflicted with another screening. Let me look that up. What was that?
Yeah,
screening?
It did.
Do you recall? Was it Skyline or no? They didn't screen Skyline.
No. Yeah, imagine that. I forget what it was. I'm sure it wasn't a big deal.
Russell Crowe.
Morning Glory.
Morning Glory.
It was Morning Glory.
Morning Glory, right? I wonder if that's also coming out this week.
That's already out. Yeah. You didn't see it.
No. Quickly, I'm looking up some information here. What did you think of Morning Glory?
I admit that Rachel McAdams does no wrong in my book. And I think this is the kind of breakout film that Working Girl was for Melanie Griffith. It's fine. It's funny. It's entertaining. There's not a lot of romance in it. Whatever romance they try to fit in feels forced. Harrison Ford is an absolute prick. And he plays it very well.
The movie earlier this year. That science thing with what's his name? He plays the scientist trying to get the disease for the kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, that came and went. It's not unlike he was in every time I've interviewed him. So, but it's a nice piece of fluff. It's winning in every respect of the word, and I just think Rachel McAdams deserves a role like this where she can be the lead, without having to be the girlfriend or the Notebook sadness thing. And it also has a great performance by Jeff Goldblum, who's only in it lately. He only shows up in movies for like maybe a total of 6 minutes, but he always steals the movie from me. He's just a treat. So I would recommend it, and men should not be afraid. If it's the date movie their date wants to go see, Rachel McAdams is cute and there's enough laughs to keep them going. So, did you find what you were looking for?
I'm trying to find this quote because we saw this presentation. A number of journalists in Boston were invited to this presentation by Disney on their, the reconstruction of Fantasia. So it was the 70th anniversary celebration of Fantasia, and they talked about the DVD and a couple of the creative directors from Disney, producer Don Hahn and creative director Dave Bossert, did this Fantasia. They didn't show Fantasia, the whole movie, but they showed large segments of it that were restored, and they looked just astonishing. It was just really, really beautiful. So they showed a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and they talked about this book that was discovered that was a notebook, a very large book that was created by one of the special effects cameramen, that basically details every effect shot in the making of Fantasia. And up until the finding of this book a year or so ago, nobody really knew how these shots were done. It was just sort of a mystery until it was uncovered, I guess, under this bed of the guy's wife, the guy's wife's bed, and it was given to these nuns. But right now it's a centerpiece at the Disney Family Museum. I forget exactly where, but anyway, it's an incredible reference. And so there's going to be a documentary on this book that's included on the DVD. And what they also did was they showed this Disney Salvador Dali collaboration called Destino, which was really freaky.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. And I actually got to talk with Dave Bossert at the end of the presentation. I asked him about Song of the South. And the reason I specifically asked about Song of the South is because every year at the shareholders meeting for Disney, somebody brings this up, and the CEO of Disney always says something dismissive, like, we're not considering it. This is just, we don't really know what to do. But it comes up every year. It's sort of just this thing, because the film has not been released since the mid '80s, and it's culturally insensitive. It was made in '46. It features, the Uncle Remus and Brer Rabbit character, which aren't flattering portrayals of black people. So, so I asked. These are the guys, Dave Bossert and Don Hahn have done restorations for Peter Pan. So I figured, if Song of the South is on their list of things to take care of, then they're the guys who are going to present this to Disney's CEO, Don Iger, I believe it is. Anyway, so I'm trying to find this quote. I tried to write it down as quickly as I could, and I'm looking through my notes here. I'll put it up on the on our blog page. But so I asked him about Song of the South because they had shown a very rare film during the program. They showed Der Fuhrer's Face, which was a World War II film starring Donald Duck that had, of course, very unflattering images, portrayals of the Nazis and Japanese in that. And, so it was propagandist at the time, but also very insensitive. And Disney hasn't ever released it, but they did Don did say that in 2005 they put that Donald Duck cartoon on a disc that contextualized what that cartoon was all about. So it was on a Disney During War disc, or a World War II collection. So therein lies the problem for releasing Song of the South. I asked him if there was a similar problem, and he said that there wasn't. But what he did tell me, and I think this is of great interest to fans of Song of the South, is he said, quote, "I can say there's been a lot of internal discussion about Song of the South, and at some point we're going to do something about it. I don't know when, but we will. And we want people to see this film because we realize it's a big piece of company history, and we want to do it the right way." So the encouraging thing there is that he says that they will, which is completely not what the Disney CEO was saying earlier this year. But if these two guys and their teams get together and make this presentation that we should now, refurbish Song of the South and get this out there in the proper context, then that's going to turn into a yes. And he's already said that they will. So I think that's actually really good news.
That is. I've always wanted to see it. I don't think I ever have.
Did you? Oh, you didn't see it as a kid? It's been re-released a couple of times.
Yeah,
and,
don't really remember it. I don't know why.
Well, it's got a couple of signature pieces, that it has
Zippity Doo Dah, right?
That's like a signature song for all of Disney World.
Yeah,
the whole Disney thing. And it was also their first foray into live action and animation, so it was kind of a benchmark for Disney at the time. So, it's one of their big films, and so hopefully, we'll see Song of the South soon. Because if the animators and the producers at in the animation department at Disney are internally talking about it, she says there's been a lot of internal discussions about it. Then that's good. That's good. Why would the CEO waste his time being concerned with just one particular film? That's what the employees' jobs. That's their concern.
Right.
They bring it to him, and the film gets released. So, all right. And I guess that leads us to our picks of the week. Cool.
Sure.
Cool. Go for it.
Mine is, I got this disc from BBC America called Sherlock. It's an updating of Sherlock Holmes that takes place in present day, and it was great. It was great. Benedict Cumberbatch, which has got to be the worst name for an actor, plays Sherlock Holmes, and Martin Freeman, who just got cast to be Frodo in The Hobbit. That's Holmes and Watson. It's modern day London. It's funny because Watson, at one point when they first meet, Watson looks up Holmes on the internet and he finds he's got a blog. And it's a crime-solving blog, and he helps the police, and it's kind of like it's got a little CSI mixed into it as far as the crime-solving. They do some cool visuals to let you know what Holmes is thinking. He's against a guy named Moriarty, his arch enemy, but it's modern-day London, and it plays it straight. It doesn't try to. There's a lot of humor in the show, but the stories are really interesting. But it's not kind of like.
Is it a miniseries?
Yeah, it was. I guess it was only 3. I think there were 3 episodes, like 90-minute movies or something. I had just really, really, really well done, and enormously entertaining. I'm a big fan of Martin Freeman anyway, and he makes a great Watson.
John, can we start this over? Hold on.
Yeah.
Sarah. Sorry, I'm still recording. Okay, we'll wait for you. Sorry, I think that all just picked up. Sarah just went to the bathroom and stuff, so I think we're going to need to re-record.
Well, no, we're just recording my voice, so I didn't get Sarah on the bathroom here.
Oh.
So that should be fine.
All right, sorry about that.
Unless
now I've just created a problem by doing the mix-up. All right.
No, we're fine.
Cool.
I think it'll work. So that would be my recommendation for this week. It's just enormously entertaining. I guess it's been on. It might be on demand on BBC America. There's a ton of extras on the Blu-ray, but I would definitely check it out for people.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm looking at the IMDb page right now, and I was surprised to see only 3 episodes.
Yeah, but they're 90-minute movies. So that would be my pick. And yourself, my good man. What do you have?
Last night I watched this documentary called "Don't You Forget About Me," and it's about
John
Hughes.
John Cazale.
No. That was the.
It was you. I knew it was you.
I knew it was you. It was the terrific half-hour John Cazale film.
So what did you see? This
is "Don't You Forget About Me." And it's about John Hughes, and it's about a group of filmmakers so influenced by his work that they make a trek from Toronto to Chicago to try and find him. Now, the amusing part of this documentary is that I grew up just a couple doors down from John Hughes.
Are you in it?
No, I'm not in it, but my bus stop as a child was John Hughes' driveway.
Huh.
He lived at about his family still lives there. I don't want to give away the exact address, but I grew up 3 houses further down the street, so to me, seeing these filmmakers arrive in Lake Forest, Illinois, and start talking to people and trying to find him, and it was amusing. They went to ultimately they were able to locate John Hughes's. This was, of course, filmed 2 years ago. At the time he was still alive. They had been able to, I guess, somehow find his address by going to the guy who delivers, for which he orders his pizza. Yeah, so they kind of got the general area of it, but they don't say exactly how they got his address, because the pizza guy wouldn't give him the address, but somehow they were able to get it. And so ultimately they arrive at his house and go through all the, we're basically like ransacking him, we're basically, we're coming here uninvited. And, they just want to get an interview with John Hughes because he hasn't been interviewed since 1999. They just want to, they have a whole list of questions that they put together while they were writing out, and about how his films have affected, the whole genre of teen films and what he thinks about things today. But they're able to actually get some incredibly credible interviews. I mean, lengthy interviews with Roger Ebert and and a bunch of John Hughes' stars, like the Breakfast Club people, Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald. I think I'm trying to recall, was Molly? I'm not sure if Molly Ringwald was in it. But other stars like Alan Ruck and
Andrew McCarthy,
Mia Sara, Andrew McCarthy, your guy,
yay, my man,
interviewed at length. The guy who I did a scene with in the movie Class. I gotta mention that again.
It's all right.
But they and Alan Ruck, and they all have some pretty funny things to say. And Mia Sara, who looks so hot. She looks Ferris Bueller's girlfriend from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay, yeah,
just incredibly good looking. So it's about how John Hughes has affected the filmmaking lives of a generation. Kevin Smith is interviewed at length and without censor, and so I'm not going to say what happens at the end, but they do arrive in Lake Forest and get all the way to John Hughes's front door, and but I'm not gonna say what happens.
Now, is this out on DVD now, or how'd you find it?
Well, I found it. Well, funny story. We were going to record this podcast yesterday, and I ran into, for some reason, my internet went off. And so I was on the phone with Comcast for the longest time trying to get my internet back, my video on demand back, and it was all messed up. So right about before we had guests over for our mini party last night, after being on a phone for an hour, and how your ear gets all warm because you've been leaning into the phone for an hour, finally the internet and everything gets working again. And the fellow who was really helpful at Comcast told me that I should test the connection out with Fancast, and said that if you have a Comcast account, email, login, whatever, you get a whole number of movies online streaming for free. So I went to Fancast, and I went to started checking stuff out. I saw a few minutes of Legion, which I know is an atrocious film, but it looked kind of cool. And then I went into the documentaries section and found Don't You Forget About Me. And I'd wanted to see this for, they've been making this for a couple of years. And I had emailed the director a couple of years ago saying that, well, if you want some help in, trying to connect with John Hughes, I might be able to help, but I don't want his address or information to, be publicized or out there in any way to, affect his or his family's privacy or anything like that. Because, it's a quiet community. He lives right across, or lived. I'm sure his family still does live there, I'm sure. But, our parents' friends lived across the street on both sides of John Hughes. Friends all around town there. And they were very, not talkative about it, kind of like you want to protect your community. You don't really want to, do anything that's going to bother your neighbors, Right. But at the same time, I could see where they were coming from, because I'm really lucky. I was fortunate enough to work as a camera assistant on a couple of John Hughes films. I did a few days on A Miracle on 34th Street, and then Baby's Day Out. And and I'd seen him work before. I actually saw them filming the Ferris Bueller's Parade in Chicago when I was a kid. And you'd see him around town every now and then, filming something. Curly Sue, Home Alone. I interviewed for Home Alone, but I didn't get the job. But
you were going to be the Macaulay Culkin guy?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I actually came up from North Carolina to interview for Home Alone, and they had the interviews at New Trier High School, which John Hughes had turned into his temporary or permanent at the time film studio, and they built, like the Breakfast Club and a couple of his other films. They built the sets right there in the gymnasium, which was kind of near. I went to Loyola Academy. It's like the school right next to it. It's New Trier. So his studio was like right there. And I interviewed for Home Alone, but didn't get the job, which sucked. But so as a filmmaker, I kind of had the same, like, well, geez, you seem like such a nice guy, and you are a perfectly nice guy, and maybe you just felt like you didn't have anything to say, or you hated the Hollywood process. But I would have liked to have read a John Hughes interview about what went on since 1999, since he kind of went underground and started writing under a different pen name. But a postscript to all of this, and one thing that the movie doesn't mention, because maybe this was done after the fact, but I guess John Hughes died in August of last year, and I think it was earlier this year, Vanity Fair did a very extensive interview with his sons and his family, and they provided all sorts of information about his philosophy, and all of his detailed notebooks were featured in the article. So that ultimately answered a lot more for me, the Vanity Fair article, than this movie did. There's a lot of immaturity in this film. The filmmakers are very young, and I could see that, if someone's coming to your house to talk to you and saying, we've, designed our lives to be able to, do what you've done, it could probably be a little disconcerting. It's a bit stalkish. But but the interviews are interesting. It's a lot of talking heads. But it's on Fancast on Comcast. It's in the Encore Movies section of Comcast, so it can be watched online. So
excellent. I will check that out. I'm a fan of some of John Hughes' stuff. So
and the fictional Shermer, Illinois. That is.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Cool.
And I guess that wraps up. I guess that wraps up this week's show. That was fun.
Excellent.
So until next week. Well, of course. Why do I always sign off without tagging shows? So here I go.
Maybe you want another cookie. You have to go to the bathroom.
I need some more chocolate or a big bowl of grapes or something like that. So hey, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you. We're at postmoviepodcast@gmail.com. And we're online on Facebook, and we've got a new website. It doesn't look really new, but it's actually a big step for us, because I had to learn WordPress completely in order to make the website that people are looking at now. Post-movie.net. Completely, created from a shell, but I had to learn it from the ground up. So in a way, I'm pretty proud of it. I know it doesn't look like much compared to other people's websites, but it is what it is, and hopefully it'll get better.
They need to reward your efforts by making the effort and going and take a look at it.
Cool. Post-movie.net. And I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/SteveHead. And I haven't been really ardent about doing my Twitter stuff. I actually post more to Facebook, but I don't know. Trying to get more technical. How about you, John? Where can people find you online?
What's a Twitter? What's a Twitter? I don't know what Twitter is.
You're at dvdaday.com.
Yes, DVD at blogspot.com.
So until next week, this is the Post Movie Podcast. I'm Steve Head.
And I'm John Black.
So long, everyone.